Wealthy CEO fired his virgin nanny, but lost control when he saw her with a date at the dance. The woman in crimson silk couldn't be his former nanny until she turned and Cole's carefully reconstructed world collapsed all over again. Have you ever pushed someone away because you were afraid of what they made you feel? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Cole Harrington fired her with 3 words, "This isn't working." Never admitting the real reason was how her innocent touch had kept him awake for nights. The severance check sat between them on his massive desk, an island of crisp white paper in an ocean of tension. 6 months of Alina caring for his niece with perfect dedication, erased with a pen stroke and a practice speech about company restructuring. "I don't understand," Alina whispered, her Georgia accent thickening with emotion. "Did I do something wrong with Emma?" "Your performance isn't the issue," Cole replied, not meeting her eyes. How could he explain that last night, finding her asleep on the living room couch, a children's book fallen open across her chest, he'd stood frozen, fighting the urge to brush a curl from her face. The Manhattan skyline glittered beyond his office windows, indifferent to the tremor in her hands as she accepted the envelope of severance pay, her eyes never leaving the floor. 2 months' salary should be sufficient transition time, he continued, voice clipped like he was ending a corporate merger instead of shattering her stability. "I've arranged for a car service to help you move your things this afternoon." Cole turned to his computer screen, a clear dismissal, while memories ambushed him. Her laughing in the kitchen when Emma spilled pancake batter everywhere, the brush of her fingers against his when handing him coffee, her admission last week that at 24, she'd never been kissed. That confession had unleashed something primal in him. The thought of being her first, of teaching her everything, invaded his dreams and made working in the same apartment impossible. Cole Harrington controlled billion-dollar acquisitions before breakfast. He wouldn't be undone by an employee 15 years his junior. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Harrington," Alina finally said, dignity wrapping around her like armor. She stood, smoothing her simple dress, chin lifted despite the tears threatening to spill. For a heartbeat, he almost called her back, almost confessed the truth, that firing her was self-preservation, not punishment. Instead, he watched her walk away, telling himself his clean break was merciful. As the elevator doors closed on her tear-stained face, Cole told himself he'd done the right thing, never guessing that in exactly 12 weeks, he'd be breaking every rule he'd ever made just to get her back. Have you ever pushed someone away because you were afraid of what they made you feel? What price have you paid for maintaining control? Drop your thoughts in the comments below if you've ever regretted letting someone go. The woman in crimson silk couldn't be his former nanny until she turned and Cole's carefully reconstructed world collapsed all over again. 3 months had passed. 3 months of Cole telling himself he'd made the right decision. 3 months of Emma asking when Miss Alina was coming back. 3 months of silence he'd convinced himself was relief. The annual Hamptons Charity Winter Dance was supposed to be business. Network with investors, charm potential clients, avoid his ex-wife. Instead, he stood frozen mid-conversation, champagne flute suspended halfway to his lips. Alina moved across the ballroom floor with newfound confidence, crimson dress flowing like liquid fire against her skin. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical bun, now fell in loose curls past her shoulders. But most shocking was her smile, radiant and directed at the man guiding her through a waltz with his hand placed low on her back. "Cole, did you hear my question?" asked the hedge fund manager beside him. "Excuse me," he muttered, abandoning both conversation and champagne as he navigated through designer gowns and tuxedos. Magnetized, helpless, crystal chandeliers cast golden light across the ballroom floor where she moved with newfound grace, her crimson dress flowing like wine against her skin, drawing every eye, including the one pair she'd hoped never to meet again. He reached the edge of the dance floor just as the music ended. Alina laughed at something her partner whispered in her ear, her head tilting back to reveal the elegant line of her throat. Cole's hands clenched at his sides, an unfamiliar heat burning through his chest. When she finally noticed him, her laughter died. Their eyes locked across the crowded room, his wide with shock, hers cool with recognition before deliberately sliding away. She whispered something to her dance partner, who glanced at Cole with obvious curiosity before nodding. Alina moved through the crowd toward the bar, pointedly not acknowledging Cole despite passing within arm's reach. The shy Nanny was gone, replaced by a woman who carried herself like she belonged among Manhattan's elite. When she finally acknowledged him with nothing but a cool nod before returning to her companion's arms, Cole realized with stunning clarity she was no longer the woman who had feared him, and that made her infinitely more dangerous. When was the last time someone who dismissed you saw you thriving without them? Did their reaction reveal what they truly felt? Comment below if you've ever experienced that sweet moment of seeing someone regret letting you go. 3 months of forced distance shattered in 3 minutes of confrontation beside the coat check counter, where Cole finally admitted with his body what his mouth refused to say. Alina had timed her exit perfectly, slipping away during the charity auction when most guests were distracted by bidding wars. She'd almost reached the coat check when Cole's voice stopped her. Leaving so soon, she turned slowly, carefully arranging her expression into polite indifference. "Mr. Harrington, I didn't realize you were attending tonight." Clearly, his tone was cool, but his eyes burned as they traveled from her face down the length of her dress. "You've changed. People do that when you discard them without explanation." She held out her claim ticket to the attendant, refusing to let him see how her pulse raced. Cole stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Who are you here with? I don't believe that's any of your business anymore." Alina accepted her rap, deliberately turning her back to him. The service corridor's dim lighting cast half his face in shadow as he blocked her path, his height and presence creating a wall she once would have cowered before. But tonight, she stood taller, chin lifted, eyes unblinking. "Is he the reason you've ignored Emma's letters?" Cole's question landed like an accusation. Alina's composure cracked. "Emma sent me letters, 6 of them, addressed by her, sealed by her, and given to my assistant to mail." Understanding dawned in his eyes, which apparently never happened. "I would never ignore Emma," she whispered, genuine hurt breaking through her armor. Cole moved closer, the space between them electrified. "And me? Have you been ignoring thoughts of me too?" His hand braced against the wall beside her head, not touching but caging her with his presence. Alina felt the heat radiating from his body, smelled the expensive cologne that still haunted her dreams. "You fired me," she reminded him, hating how breathless she sounded. "You don't get to question my choices now. One choice in particular concerns me," he murmured, leaning closer until his breath warmed her cheek. "The man you're with tonight, do you know who he is?" "Someone who wanted me there," Alina shot back. "Unlike you." Something dangerous flashed in Cole's eyes. For one heart-stopping moment, she thought he might kiss her. His gaze dropped to her lips, his body swayed forward. "You lost the right to question me when you handed me that check," she whispered, words landing like precision strikes. What she didn't tell him was that her date wasn't just any investor. He was the man plotting to dismantle Cole's empire piece by piece. What would you say to someone who discarded you, then demanded explanations about your new life? Share below if you've ever had to reclaim your power from someone who took it. The morning headlines paired her name with his greatest enemy, the man who'd spent 2 years trying to destroy everything Cole had built. Cole hurled the business section across his office, startling his assistant who'd just entered with coffee. The photo couldn't be denied. Alina Brooks smiling up at James Westfield, CEO of Westfield Innovations, and the shark who'd been circling Cole's company since its landmark security patent approval. "Give me everything on Alina Brooks," Cole ordered, ignoring the coffee. "Employment history, education records, current address." "Sir, that's not exactly." "Now, Michael." Cole turned to the window, jaw clenched. "And find out when she started working for Westfield." The tablet screen glowed with damning evidence. Alina smiling up at James Westfield, his hand possessively at the small of her back where Cole's own fingers had once accidentally lingered. An hour later, The file landed on his desk. Cole flipped through pages revealing nothing suspicious. No corporate background, no technology experience, no apparent value to Westfield's operation. Just a small-town Georgia girl who'd moved north after her father's death, worked babysitting jobs, then landed the position with Cole through an agency recommendation. The connection made no sense. Unless Westfield had hired her specifically to infiltrate Cole's home, his personal life, his company. The thought turned his blood cold. Had Alina been gathering information all those months? Had those innocent questions about his work been reconnaissance? Was her confession about never being kissed just another manipulation? Cole dialed his security chief. "I need surveillance on James Westfield's office. And give me Alina Brooks's current address." 2 hours later, Cole sat in his town car outside a modest Brooklyn apartment building, file in hand. The theory made perfect sense. Westfield plants an attractive, seemingly innocent woman in Cole's household. She gathers information on his schedule, his security measures, his upcoming projects, then delivers it all to Westfield after Cole conveniently fires her. Except one detail bothered him. Why would Westfield reveal their connection so publicly? A covert spy wouldn't dance with her handler at Manhattan's most photographed charity event. When his town car pulled up outside her modest Brooklyn apartment building, Cole rehearsed his accusations one last time. But when she opened the door, barefoot in worn jeans with textbooks spread across her coffee table, the truth hit him harder than any betrayal. She wasn't just moving on professionally. She was becoming someone new entirely. Have you ever discovered someone you trusted might be working against you? Did you confront them or plan your counterattack? Let me know in the comments what you would do if you were in Cole's position. He came to accuse her of espionage, but left offering double her previous salary, with one condition that would bring her back into his home, his life, and dangerously close to his control. "Mr. Harrington," Alina said, surprise quickly replaced by wariness. "How did you find my address?" Cole didn't wait for an invitation, stepping past her into the apartment. Not difficult when you're on the front page of the business section with James Westfield. Her tiny apartment kitchen barely contained his presence. His tailored suit and commanding height at odds with chipped mugs and the plant-filled windowsill where sunshine highlighted the determined set of her jaw. "I'm not going to apologize for having dinner with someone," Alina said, crossing her arms. Cole surveyed the living room, noting the business textbooks, the laptop open to a spreadsheet, a half-eaten sandwich. Not exactly the lair of a corporate spy. "Business administration," he remarked, nodding toward the books. "Night school, yes." Her defenses remain high. "City college. Some of us have to work for our opportunities." "Is that what Westfield offered you? Opportunity?" "He offered me scholarship money," Alina admitted reluctantly. After hearing my story at the charity event, Cole's eyes narrowed. "And what exactly did your story include about me?" "Nothing," she shot back. "Contrary to what you might think, my life doesn't revolve around you anymore." The anymore hung between them, an unintended admission that sent heat through his veins. "Westfield isn't offering scholarships out of kindness," Cole said, stepping closer. "He's using you to get to me. Not everything is about you either," Alina replied, but uncertainty flickered across her face. "He's been trying to acquire my security patents for 2 years," Cole explained, voice softening. "Military-grade encryption that would be worth billions in the right or wrong hands." Alina sank onto her couch. "Why would he think I know anything about that?" "Because you lived in my home, had access to my private spaces, could have seen documents, overheard conversations." Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed quickly by indignation. "You think I spied on you?" "I think he's using you," Cole corrected, sitting beside her. "And I want to offer you an alternative, which is, come work for me again. Not as Emma's nanny, but as my personal assistant. Double your previous salary, plus tuition coverage. Complete your degree with no debt." Alina's eyes widened. "Why would you trust me if you think I might be working with Westfield? Keep your friends close, enemies closer?" Cole smiled, the first genuine one she'd seen. "Or maybe I just want to see his face when you show up on my side at the next industry event." She studied him, wariness battling with practical consideration. The offer would solve her financial struggles, accelerate her education. But returning to Cole's orbit after escaping it. "I'll consider your offer on one condition," she said, voice steady despite her racing pulse. "You tell me the real reason you fired me." The color drained from his face as he realized she was done accepting comfortable lies. "Would you ever give someone who hurt you professionally a second chance? What would they need to offer to make it worth the risk? Tell me below what you demand in Alina's position. Some confessions change everything, like admitting you fired someone because you couldn't stop thinking about how their lips would taste. Cole stood by her living room window, shoulders rigid under his tailored jacket. Outside, evening shadows stretched across Brooklyn streets, while inside, silence expanded to fill every corner of Alina's apartment. "The real reason?" he finally said, not turning to face her. "You really want to know? I think I deserve that much." Alina remained on the couch, fingers nervously tracing the edge of a textbook. Cole turned, his expression unreadable. "I fired you because I couldn't trust myself around you anymore." "What does that even mean?" she asked, frustration edging her voice. "It means," he continued, taking a deliberate step toward her, "that when you told me you'd never been kissed, I couldn't think about anything else." Alina's breath caught. That's not appropriate." "Exactly." His laugh held no humor. "Nothing about what I felt was appropriate. You worked for me. You lived in my home. You cared for my niece." Rain began tapping against her windows, echoing the rapid beat of her heart. "So, instead of being a professional and dealing with it, you just threw me out?" Anger sparked in her eyes, months of hurt fueling the flame. "I did what I thought was right," Cole said, moving closer until he stood directly before her. "I removed myself from temptation." Alina stood, refusing to let him tower over her. "Without any consideration for what it would do to me, to Emma, you just decided what was best for everyone. I made a mistake." The admission seemed physically painful for him. "Which part was the mistake?" she challenged. "Wanting me or firing me?" Cole's hands trembled as they framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with reverence that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against her mouth. But the word that escaped her lips was please. The first touch of his lips against hers was hesitant, testing. The second was not. His mouth claimed hers with pent-up desire. Months of denial fueling the kiss that stole her breath and rewrote everything she thought she knew about wanting. Her hands found his shoulders, uncertain whether to push him away or pull him closer. His fingers threaded into her hair, angling her head to deepen the connection as rain drummed harder against the windows. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she saw vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior, a crack in the armor he wore like a second skin. "That," he said roughly, "is why I fired you. Because I couldn't be in the same room without wanting that. Without wanting more." Alina stepped back, touching her lips as though the evidence of the kiss might disappear. "You could have just talked to me." "And said what? That your boss was inappropriately attracted to you? That would have put you in an impossible position. So you put me out of a job instead." She shook her head, torn between anger and a new, dangerous understanding. As she signed his contract the next morning, one thought kept circling her mind. He still didn't know about her connection to James Westfield, or that accepting this position put her squarely between two powerful men with the ability to destroy each other. What have words changed everything between you and someone else? Was it a confession, an apology, or something entirely unexpected? Share your moment in the comments below. Working beside the man who fired her was complicated enough. Keeping secrets for his rival while fighting her attraction made it impossible. The glass-walled executive floor of Harrington Technologies hummed with efficiency. 5 days into her new role as Cole's personal assistant, Alina had mastered the rhythm of his corporate life, scheduling calls, preparing briefings, managing the constant flow of people seeking his attention. What she hadn't mastered was forgetting the taste of his kiss. "The Hong Kong investors need these projections by morning," Cole said, passing her a tablet as they walked between meetings. His fingers brushed hers, sending electricity up her arm. Neither acknowledged it. I'll have Michael from finance update the numbers and send them for your approval tonight, she replied professionally, though her skin still tingled from the brief contact. His executive office suite stood 60 floors above Manhattan, glass walls offering godlike views of the city. Yet all she could focus on was the warmth of his hand guiding her through introductions, lingering seconds longer than necessary. Later that evening, as most employees departed, Alina remained at her desk outside Cole's office, organizing his schedule for the following week. Through the glass, she watched him loosen his tie, roll up his sleeves, revealing forearms that distracted her from spreadsheets. Her phone buzzed with a text from James Westfield, still waiting on our coffee date. Did Harrington make you a better offer? Guilt pressed against her ribs. The scholarship money Westfield had promised still waited in her account. Money she hadn't returned despite accepting Cole's position. Money she desperately needed if her sister ever resurfaced. For 3 years, Alina had searched for Maya, who disappeared after moving north for a modeling job. The search had drained Alina's savings, leading her to New York and ultimately to Cole's door as a nanny. She'd never mentioned Maya to him. The pain too private, the search too personal. Westfield had promised connections that might help find Maya. But now Alina wondered about his real motives. Cole emerged from his office, suit jacket discarded, sleeves pushed to his elbows. "Have dinner with me," he said, leaning against her desk. "We should discuss the Anderson acquisition somewhere other than this fishbowl." Her resistance weakened each day spent in his orbit, his intelligence, his focus, the rare smiles reserved for moments when they connected over ideas. The wall between employer and employee thinning to dangerous transparency. When her phone buzzed with James Westfield's text, "Dinner tomorrow, we need to talk." She turned it face down on Cole's desk. Too late. His eyes had already locked on the name, his expression shifting from warmth to winter in an instant. Have you ever been caught between competing loyalties? How did you decide which commitment mattered more? Tell me in the comments how you'd handle being pulled in opposite directions. She expected accusations, even termination, not for him to press her against his office door and demand she bring him to Westfield's dinner meeting. Explain. One word, delivered with icy precision as Cole lifted her phone, screen still displaying Westfield's message. Alina straightened her shoulders, refusing to cower. "He offered to help me with something personal before I knew about your history." What something personal could possibly be worth getting involved with him? Cole's voice remained controlled, but danger radiated from every line of his body. After hours, darkness shrouded his office, the city lights creating a constellation of possibilities beyond the windows, none of them leading to safety. "My sister," Alina admitted, the words painful after years of private searching. "She disappeared 3 years ago. Westfield said he has connections that might help find her." Something shifted in Cole's expression, surprise, then calculation. And in return, he never specified, just said he'd expect a favor someday. Cole's laugh held no humor. Classic Westfield. Create an obligation, cash it in when it benefits him most. He paced the length of his office, thinking. When he turned back, his eyes held something dangerous. "Go to dinner with him tomorrow," Cole said, stalking toward her until her back pressed against the closed office door. "Let him think you're playing both sides." "You want me to spy on him?" Alina asked, heart racing at his proximity. "I want you to give him exactly what he expects." Cole's hands landed on the door frame beside her head, caging her between his arms. "Let him believe he's turning you against me." His mouth traced the column of her throat, teeth grazing pulse points that betrayed her desire despite her fury. "Tell me you don't want this," he challenged, voice rough with need. "Tell me you're loyal to him." She gripped his wrists, halting his exploration. "I'm loyal to myself," she answered, pushing him back just enough to breathe. "This is insane," she whispered, struggling to focus as his heat enveloped her. "You fired me, then hired me back, and now you want me to be your double agent?" "I want to protect what's mine," he growled, the possessive statement sending an inappropriate thrill down her spine. "I'm not yours," she reminded him, even as her body betrayed her words, leaning toward him instinctively. "Neither is my company," Cole countered, his thumb tracing her lower lip. "But I'll fight like hell to keep both." His mouth hovered inches from hers, desire warring with restraint. Alina's fingers curled into his shirt, uncertain whether to pull him closer or push him away. "This isn't about us," he murmured against her jaw. "It's about Westfield using you to get to me." "Then stop using me too," she challenged, forcing space between them. "Stop touching me when you're angry. Stop kissing me when you're afraid of losing control." Cole stepped back as though burned, raw emotion flashing across his face before his mask returned. "I'll take you to Westfield," she whispered, straightening her blouse with trembling fingers, "but not as your spy. As your equal partner in whatever happens next." The proposal hung between them, a challenge, a promise, and a threat all wrapped in 4 words: take it or leave. When have you realized someone was using you as a chess piece in their game? Did you play along or flip the board? Share your experience with manipulation and how you took back control. They arrived at the restaurant as employer and employee, but by the time dessert arrived, the performance they planned had become dangerously real. The exclusive Manhattan restaurant pulsed with quiet wealth. Murmured conversations, crystal glinting in candlelight, power brokered between courses on china worth more than Alina's monthly rent. James Westfield rose as they approached, confusion flashing across his handsome face before settling into an amused smile. "Cole, what an unexpected pleasure." "James," Cole replied coolly, his hand resting possessively at the small of Alina's back. "Hope you don't mind my joining. Alina mentioned your dinner plans, and I thought, why waste an opportunity for civilized conversation?" Westfield's eyes darted between them, recalculating. "Of course. Please." Alina slid into the booth, Cole following close beside her, his thigh pressed against hers beneath the table. Their strategy was simple. Show Westfield they were unified, force him to reveal his true intentions. So, Westfield began once they'd ordered, "How's the new position treating you, Alina?" "Wonderfully," she replied, following the script she and Cole had practiced. "I'm learning so much about the industry." Cole's hand settled on her knee under the table, a gesture that appeared possessive but felt protective. "Alina has exceptional insight, already spotted inefficiencies in our operations that veterans missed." Westfield's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Impressive, though I'm curious what changed. Last week at the charity event, you seemed quite dissatisfied with your former employer." "Circumstances evolve," Alina replied carefully. "Indeed they do." Westfield swirled his wine. "And how is little Emma?" "Your niece, correct, Cole?" The question seemed innocent, but Cole's fingers tightened on Alina's knee. "She's well. Missing her nanny, of course. Family is so important," Westfield continued. "The connections we make, the blood we share." Speaking of connections, Alina mentioned a personal matter I offered to help with. "A missing sister, I believe." Cole's expression remained neutral, but Alina felt him tense beside her. "Maya," she confirmed quietly. "We haven't found her yet." "Such a shame," Westfield replied, attention fixed on Cole's reaction. "Beautiful girl. Talented. Moved up here for modeling, correct?" "Around 3 years ago." Throughout dinner, the conversation maintained its veneer of civility while currents of strategy churned beneath. Cole's fingers traced patterns on her thigh, his breath warm against her ear as he whispered comments meant to look intimate, but were actually observations about Westfield's behavior. The act became reality with each touch, each shared glance. By dessert, Alina found herself leaning into Cole's shoulder naturally, his arm draped across the booth behind her, fingers occasionally brushing her bare shoulder. As Westfield excused himself to take a call, his parting words froze her blood. "Alina, I hope he's told you about his niece's mother. After all, isn't that why you're really here?" Cole's fingers tightened around his water glass until she feared it might shatter. Like the truth, she suddenly realized he was still hiding. Have you ever pretended feelings only to discover they were becoming real? What gave you away? Share your story of when an act turned into truth below. The penthouse elevator doors closed on their silence, his jaw clenched, her arms crossed, and 3 years of secrets hanging between them like a guillotine blade. Neither spoke during the ride up to Cole's apartment. The driver who collected them from the restaurant had sensed the tension, keeping his eyes fixed firmly on the road as they sat at opposite ends of the back seat. Now, as the elevator delivered them to his private sanctuary, the silence became unbearable. What did he mean about Emma's mother? Alina finally asked, stepping into the apartment she once knew intimately as a nanny. Cole strode to the bar, pouring 2 fingers of whiskey. Westfield enjoys creating chaos. It's his specialty. That's not an answer. She remained by the door, arms wrapped around herself. Midnight transformed his penthouse into a landscape of shadows and sharp edges, moonlight cutting through floor-to-ceiling windows to illuminate the space between them, a gulf filled with accusations neither had expected to voice. Emma's mother left. Cole downed his drink. After my brother died 3 years ago, she couldn't handle motherhood alone, signed over custody and disappeared. And you never thought to mention this when I was caring for Emma? Alina's voice rose with disbelief. It wasn't relevant to your job. It was absolutely relevant. I spent 6 months loving that little girl without knowing the trauma she'd experienced. Cole flinched at her words. I was protecting Emma and her mother's privacy. You were controlling the narrative, Alina countered. Just like you're doing now with this Westfield situation. They stood at opposite ends of the living room, tension crackling between them. Why is he so interested in your sister? Cole asked suddenly. Alina hesitated, then decided truth deserved truth. Maya came to New York 3 years ago for modeling. Connecticut first, then here. Then nothing. Her phone disconnected, social media abandoned. She just vanished. How old is she? 28 now. Alina swallowed hard. She was wild, beautiful, thought she was invincible. Something strange crossed Cole's face. Connecticut? 3 years ago. Yes, she had a boyfriend there. I never met him, but she said he was connected, wealthy. Cole's glass slipped from his fingers, crystal shattering across marble tiles. Your sister disappeared 3 years ago in Connecticut? His voice dropped to a whisper, color draining from his face. What was her name? Maya Brooks. When she answered, the tumbler slipped from his fingers, crystal shattering across marble tiles. That's impossible, he breathed. That's my niece's mother's name. The world stopped turning. Alina gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. You're lying, she whispered. I wish I were. Cole moved to a desk, retrieving a folder. He extracted a photograph and handed it to her with unsteady fingers. The photograph he handed her cracked her world in half. The smiling woman with her arm around Cole's brother had her eyes, her smile, her blood. When have you discovered someone's actions made sense only after learning their full story? Did it change how you felt about them? Comment below if a revelation ever transformed your understanding of someone you thought you knew. The photograph he handed her cracked her world in half. The smiling woman with her arm around Cole's brother had her eyes, her smile, her blood. Maya, Alina whispered, fingers tracing her sister's face in the glossy image. The photo showed Maya beaming beside a handsome man with features that matched Cole's, his brother David, at what appeared to be an engagement party. She called herself Maya West here, Cole said quietly. I only met her a few times before David's accident. She was vibrant, unpredictable. Alina sank onto the couch. Photo clutched her chest. All this time, I've been searching everywhere. And Emma, her voice broke. Emma is my niece. Dawn painted the horizon in watercolor blues and pinks beyond his balcony as they sat surrounded by photographs and documents. Puzzle pieces of 2 lives unknowingly connected long before they'd met. Cole joined her, close but not touching. After David died in the car crash, Maya couldn't cope. She signed custody over to me and checked herself into a treatment facility. When she didn't return for Emma's first birthday, I hired investigators. They tracked her through various rehab centers, then lost her trail. Why didn't she tell me? Alina's voice shook with anger, hurt. I would have helped her. Addiction changes people, makes them hide from those they love most. The realization struck her suddenly. Westfield knew. He knew all along who I was to Emma. Cole's expression hardened. He's been watching both of us, waiting for the perfect leverage. But why? What does he really want? My company and my patents, Cole said. But mostly he wants to win. Our rivalry goes back to college. Everything's a game to him. And we're just pieces on his board. Alina stood, pacing the room as morning light strengthened. My sister, Emma, Yumi, all manipulated for his entertainment. He didn't count on us discovering the connection, Cole pointed out. We're working together. Alina turned, seeing Cole through new eyes. No longer just her former boss or current employer, but family. The man who'd raised her niece. Protected her sister's child. Where is she now? Maya, last report, placed her at a facility in Vermont 6 months ago. Then nothing. Their bodies found each other like lost continents, finally drifting home, his hands mapping tremors across her skin, her tears catching on his collarbone. We shouldn't, she whispered, even as her fingers threaded through his hair, pulling him closer. We already are, he answered against her lips. The kiss began as comfort, but transformed into something rawer. Shared grief, shared purpose, shared future connecting them as her back met the wall. His hands framed her face with unexpected tenderness, thumbs brushing away tears as his mouth claimed hers with growing hunger. Alina's fingers worked at his shirt buttons, needing to feel his skin, to ground herself in physical sensation when everything else had shattered. Cole lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her to the couch. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her neck, even as his hands slipped beneath her dress. Don't stop, she answered, arching into his touch. Make me forget everything but this. Their coming together was both gentle and desperate, his reverence for her body at odds with the urgency in his movements, her surrender transforming into demand as she guided his hands where she needed them most. When pleasure finally overtook her, Alina cried out his name, clutching him close as he followed her over the edge. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the first rays of sunlight warming their skin. Reality waited beyond this moment. Complications, questions, dangers, but for now, they existed in the eye of the storm. Her phone illuminated with Westfield's message. Congratulations on discovering the truth. Now for the price. Bring me Cole's new security patents by Friday, where your sister stays where she is permanently. Your choice, Alina. Has a shared crisis ever created unexpected connection with someone? Did it last beyond the moment of revelation? Share how discovering a hidden truth changed a relationship in your life. 24 hours ago, she'd been torn between two men. Now she was plotting with one to destroy the other while protecting the sister who had never tried to find her. He's bluffing, Cole insisted, studying Westfield's message on Alina's phone. They sat at his kitchen island, laptops open, coffee growing cold. He can't just keep someone in a facility against their will. Can't he? Alina countered. You said yourself, his family owns pharmaceutical companies. What if they own the rehab center too? Cole's fingers flew across his keyboard, eyes narrowing. West Valley Recovery Center, he read. Subsidiary of Westfield Health Solutions. So he knows exactly where Maya is. Alina's stomach twisted and can control whether she's released. We're not giving him my patents, Cole stated firmly. They're military-grade encryption algorithms. In the wrong hands. She's my sister, Alina interrupted. Emma's mother. Cole reached across the table, fingers closing over hers. I know, and we'll get her back. But not by giving Westfield what he wants. Together, they formulated a plan, a dangerous gambit requiring perfect timing and Westfield's predictable arrogance. Cole would prepare modified patents, altered just enough to be useless while appearing authentic. Meanwhile, they would locate Maya and prepare legal intervention. The rehabilitation center gleamed with expensive minimalism, healing packaged in designer architecture and carefully cultivated gardens. A golden cage where second chances came with corporate logos. Alina pressed her face against the car window as they drove through the gates of West Valley Recovery. She's been here all this time, just hours from New York. Cole squeezed her hand. Remember, we're here as family checking on her status. Nothing about Westfield. The facility director, a polished woman with practiced sympathy, led them to a private office. Maya, West has been with us 15 months, she explained, reviewing a tablet. Initially voluntary, then recommitted after an incident during a weekend pass. Recommitted by whom? Cole asked sharply. Her sponsor and financial guarantor, Mr. Westfield. That's not legal, Alina protested. He's not family. The director's smile tightened. Ms. West signed a care directive naming him her healthcare proxy. Without court intervention, they weren't permitted to see Maya, destabilizing to her treatment plan, but left with confirmation she was physically well, if heavily medicated. In the privacy of Cole's car, Alina finally broke. Tears she'd held back poured forth, her body shaking with the weight of discovery, relief, and renewed helplessness. Cole pulled her into his arms across the console, his strength steadying her storm. What began as comfort evolved into desperate connection, her mouth finding his, hands gripping his shoulders as though he might disappear too. We'll get her out, he promised against her lips. Together, we give him exactly what he wants, Cole said, fingers interlaced with hers across the console. But we change one variable in the security patent, just enough to destroy his company when he tries to use it. Her heart raced at his words, not with fear, but with the intoxicating realization. They were becoming dangerous together. What would you sacrifice to protect family? Even family who hadn't protected you. Is blood enough reason for loyalty? Drop a comment about how far you'd go to save someone who disappeared from your life. She walked into Westfield's office with stolen patents and a wire, knowing one wrong word would collapse not just their plan, but any future they might have together. Alina, right on time. James Westfield rose from behind his expansive desk, arms open in welcome as though they were old friends. I appreciate your cooperation. She clutched the slim metallic drive containing Cole's modified patents, heart hammering against her ribs. The wire tape beneath her blouse felt suddenly obvious, though Cole's security team had assured her it was undetectable. Where's Maya? She demanded, remaining by the door. Direct. I like that. Westfield gestured to a chair. Please sit. We have details to discuss. The patents first, Alina countered, then my sister. Westfield's Los Angeles office overlooked the Pacific, the endless blue horizon a stark contrast to the walls closing in around her as his security team approached with scanner devices. Panic flared as one of the men moved toward her with a handheld scanner. Standard procedure, Westfield explained with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Can't be too careful these days. The scanner beeped near her ribcage. Westfield's expression hardened. Really, Alina? What? I expected better from you. His security removed the recording device, while Alina maintained her composure, mind racing through contingency plans. Cole was monitoring remotely, ready with authorities once they had concrete evidence of Westfield's extortion. Did Cole put you up to this? Or was it your idea? Westfield asked, studying her with newfound interest. Either way, I'm impressed by your commitment. The patents are real, she replied evenly. Wire or no wire. Westfield inserted the drive into his computer, scanning the files with obvious satisfaction. These appear authentic, but I'll need verification before releasing any information about your sister. You know exactly where she is, Alina challenged. In your family's facility, being held against her will. Maya, check herself in, he corrected smoothly. I merely facilitated the process. After getting her addicted in the first place, the accusation was a calculated risk. Westfield's smile faltered. Careful with your allegations, Mass. Brooks, they could be considered defamatory. I want her released. Today. That's not how this works. His tone hardened. These patents need verification. I need assurance Cole hasn't tampered with them. When the security team found the wire, Westfield's smile turned predatory. Tell Cole he has 1 hour to bring the real patents here personally, where your sister's medical records get leaked to every board member in his company. The door locked with electronic finality as the guards left her alone, with only the panic button in her bracelet connecting her to the man who now had to choose between his life's work and her safety. Have you ever had to bluff your way through a situation where everything was at stake? What gave you the courage to continue? Share your most daring moment in the comments. Cole Harrington had built his reputation on calculating every risk, but nothing had prepared him for trading his company's future for the woman who'd become his unexpected salvation. "He's calling your bluff," Michael, Cole's security chief, warned as they reviewed surveillance footage of Alina being held in Westfield's office. "The modified patents won't fool his tech team for long." "They don't need to," Cole replied, checking his watch. "Just long enough for Judge Ramsey to sign the emergency custody order for Maya." Inside his briefcase lay the authentic encryption patents, the culmination of 5 years' work and the foundation of his company's military contracts. Beside them, a single photograph of Emma with Alina, taken months ago during her time as nanny. 60 minutes after Westfield's ultimatum, Cole strode into the Los Angeles high-rise, authentic patents in hand. His legal team had advised against this move, corporate suicide they called it. But they didn't understand what Alina had become to him, what Emma needed her to be. Sunset blazed through Westfield's office windows, turning the confrontation into silhouettes against flame. 3 people whose lives had entangled beyond recognition, each holding cards the others couldn't see. Cole, right on time. Westfield's satisfaction was palpable as security escorted Cole into the office where Alina waited, visibly relieved at his arrival. Cole crossed to her immediately, pulling her into a brief, desperate embrace that conveyed everything words could not. "Are you okay?" he murmured against her hair. She nodded, eyes communicating silent warning. "Be careful." "The authentic patents," Cole announced, placing his briefcase on Westfield's desk. "Verified, incomplete." Westfield's smile widened. "Noble sacrifice, Cole. I didn't think you had it in you." "Where's Maya?" Cole demanded. "Being processed for release as we speak." Westfield opened the briefcase, examining the contents with barely contained excitement. "Assuming these check out." "They will," Cole assured him, arms still protectively around Alina's waist. "Now I want proof Maya's being released." Westfield made a show of checking his phone, then turned it toward them, displaying a video feed of a woman being escorted through double doors. Maya, thin, subdued, but unmistakably Alina's sister. "Satisfied?" Westfield asked. "Not quite," Cole replied. "There's one more thing you should know." Westfield raised an eyebrow. "Your office has been broadcasting to federal agents for the past hour." Cole nodded toward a decorative vase on the credenza. "Courtesy of a nanny cam I had Alina place when she first arrived." The color drained from Westfield's face as he realized his mistake. He'd removed the wire, but never searched her belongings. The ornate vase, a gift she'd insisted on bringing, contained a transmitter linked directly to FBI agents who had been gathering evidence of extortion, illegal detainment, and corporate espionage. As federal agents flooded the office, responding to evidence the nanny cam had been broadcasting for hours, Cole pulled Alina into his chest, shielding her from the chaos. "It's over," he whispered against her hair. Her hand pressed against his heartbeat as she looked up, eyes haunted. "Not yet," she murmured. "There's something I need to tell you. What would make you sacrifice everything you've worked for? Is there someone in your life worth losing everything else to protect? Tell me in the comments what you would risk everything to save." 6 months ago, he fired his nanny because he couldn't trust himself around her. Today, he trusted her with his heart, his company, and the truth about the child who had brought them together. Spring sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows, catching dust motes dancing above where Cole's niece, her niece, sprawled across the carpet with crayons and construction paper, creating family portraits that finally told the truth. "Mommy's coming for lunch," Emma announced, carefully coloring a figure with long dark hair like her own. "And Aunt Alina and Uncle Cole are making mac and cheese." Alina smiled from her spot on the couch, legal briefs balanced on her lap. The journey to this moment had cost them all dearly, but the rewards proved worth every sacrifice. Maya's recovery progressed steadily under proper care, not the drug-induced compliance Westfield had maintained. 3 months into outpatient treatment, she'd begun supervised visits with Emma, rebuilding the relationship one afternoon at a time. The evidence from Westfield's office had triggered investigations into his pharmaceutical holdings, revealing patterns of patient exploitation and insurance fraud. His empire crumbled as quickly as Cole's expanded. The authentic patents now protected by enhanced security and an overhauled corporate structure, with Alina as chief operations officer. The news had called it the corporate scandal of the decade. They called it justice. "She's got your artistic talent," Cole observed, joining Alina on the couch, his hand finding hers automatically. "And your stubbornness," Alina countered, leaning into his solid warmth. The pregnancy test that morning had confirmed what she'd suspected for weeks. The final piece of their unexpected family taking shape within her. The news she'd hesitated to share in Westfield's office now waited on her lips, joy tempered by lingering fears. "I need to tell you something," she began, setting aside her work. Cole's expression grew serious. "Everything okay?" "More than okay." She guided his hand to her still flat stomach. "We're gonna have a baby." His sharp intake of breath was followed by wonder spreading across his face. The controlled so giving way to the man who'd learned to embrace life's beautiful chaos. "You're sure?" he whispered. She nodded, tears threatening. 8 weeks. I wanted to be certain before." Cole pulled her into his arms, fierce protection and tenderness in his embrace. "Thank you," he murmured against her hair. "For what?" "For staying. For finding a way back to us. For completing the circle Maya started." Later that night, after Emma's bedtime story and Maya's departure, following a successful lunch, they retreated to their bedroom, the sanctuary that had witnessed their evolution from employer-employee to partners in every sense. In the sanctuary of their bedroom, his reverence had only deepened. Fingers tracing promises against her skin, lips mapping gratitude along curves he now knew by heart. "You found me," she whispered into the hollow of his throat. Words he echoed back as his body joined with hers. No longer employer and employee, no longer separated by secrets. Just two people who had risked everything to become whole. His hands caressed her with newfound awe, knowledge of their growing child adding layers to his touch as he whispered plans and promises against her skin. Her body arched into his, trust complete where once fear had lived. They moved together with the synchronicity of partners who had learned each other's rhythms through trial and triumph. "I love you," he breathed against her lips as pleasure built between them. "All of you. I love you," she answered, holding nothing back as they created their future with each touch, each kiss, each moment of perfect unity. Afterward, wrapped in moonlight and each other, Alina placed his hand again over their child. "From sacrifice to celebration," she whispered, echoing the journey that had brought them here. "What unexpected journey has completely transformed your life? Who entered your world disguised as one thing, but became something entirely different?" If this story of finding family in unexpected places touched your heart, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about second chances and the courage to trust again. Tell me in the comments which moment between Cole and Alina resonated most with you.